another big story. A famous Punjabi singer, noted rapper, a youth icon and a politician, 28-year-old Sidhu Moosewala was killed 24 hours after his security cover was curtailed by the Punjab government. According to Punjab government, it was an attack on VVIP culture. He was shot dead in Punjab's Mansa on the radar of gangsters. Sidhu Moosewala's security was halved despite an IB report citing threat to singer's life. His security was cut to half from 4 to just 2 security personnel just a day before his murder. On 28th of May, the Aam Aadmi Party government in Punjab had put out a poster from its official Twitter account, giving details about how the government in Punjab has ordered withdrawal and reduction of security cover for 424 VVIPs. That list included Sidhu Moosewala, and his name specifically, along with a few others, was also mentioned. So all these details were also released by the government via the official Twitter handle. Now, these are the visuals that we are now going to show you on your screens of CCTV footage. This tells us what transpired in broad daylight. There you can see Sidhu Moosewala traveling in his black car, being tailed by suspects in the white car. Then there are CCTV visuals of suspects eating food at a dhaba and waiting for him to come out so that they can attack him. Soon after his murder, the issue turned political, with the opposition parties cornering the Aam Aadmi Party government in Punjab, questioning the basis on which his security was downgraded. Was there threat assessment? On what basis was this decision really taken? While the Punjab government's intent may have been good to target VVIP culture, to get rid of it, the blame game has now erupted over reduction and withdrawal of security cover. Was threat perception properly assessed? But the way in which it was done, was it right? That's our big debate this evening at 8 p.m. on Mirror Now. And before I welcome my guest, let's listen in to these reactions.
पंजाब की कानून व्यवस्था हाशिए पर पहुंच चुकी है। मुख्यमंत्री व्यस्त हैं केजरीवाल साहब के इर्द गिर्द परिक्रमा करने में, यहाँ व्यस्त हैं हिमाचल व गुजरात के प्रवास में। 16 वारदातें हो चुकी, 16 हत्याएं हो चुकी। मैं समझता हूं पिछले 70 दिन का जो उनका सरकार है वो काले दिन है।
It's been about 75 days since this government has been in office, and there have been a series of unfortunate incidents, beginning with the killing of certain kabaddi players, 3 kabaddi players. Then there was the attack on the headquarters of the Punjab intelligence in Mohali, and now you have the unfortunate killing of Sidhu Moosewala, who was a very popular Punjabi singer and was the Congress candidate from Mansa. And now you've had this unfortunate incident of a assistant sub-inspector being attacked in Jalandhar. It's obvious that somebody is trying to test the red lines of the new government.
सरकार दी खोकी शौहरत कमाउण वास्ते बिना कोई प्रक्रिया नूं फॉलो कीते किसी दी सिक्योरिटी विड्रॉ करनी या घटानी ते फिर शाबाशी लैण वास्ते सोशल मीडिया 'च उस खबर नूं फैलाना सिद्धे तरीके दे नाल उस इंसान दी जान नूं खतरे विच पाउण दी एक गल बनदी हैगी। एक पासे आपां देखिया कि अकाल तख्त साहब दी जथेदार साहब दी भी सिंह साहब दी सिक्योरिटी भी घटाती ते दूजे पासे केजरीवाल दे कोल 80 पंजाब दे गनमैन राघव चड्डे वर्गे कोल मुख मंत्री साहब खुद दे कोल इन्हां सारियां दी सिक्योरिटी वधा के जिन्हां दी घटाई है घट तो घट पंजाब दे लोकां दी तां सिक्योरिटी वधनी चाहिए ते कल दा दुखदाई घटना दा सिद्धा कारण आ हैगा।
And joining us on the broadcast this evening is my colleague Priyank Tripathi, who's been tracking the developments very, very closely. Priyank, the question that many are asking right now is that was there some sort of an assessment of the threat perception in this case specifically? And who did
So
it?
good evening. In fact, the state police has miserably failed to assess the threat on Sidhu Moosewala, who was not even getting threat from the gangsters who are operating in this western part of the country, but also those gangsters who are based in Canada. And following to which, what happened yesterday has been a clear reminder of there has been a major lapse in the local intel also. There were three vehicles which kept on roving near the residence of Sidhu Moosewala. They did recce, and the local intelligence was caught unaware. Not even that, but the person who was given 10 commandos, the security was withdrawn and it was decreased to 2. That could have also, survived. But the fact remains that the state government was too much keen on coming out openly in media and talking about withdrawing the security, which certainly alerted those killers who were, keeping a tab on the security of Sidhu Moosewala. Following to which there were multiple rounds which were fired on Sidhu Moosewala, and even after the assailants fired on him, they kept on, giving, a big chase to the police officers. Initially, they used 3 vehicles, then they dropped these vehicles at abandoned location. And today also, there were a series of abandoned vehicles which were found by the local police, but the suspects are still at large. So following to which, there have been massive manhunt which has been lodged, but at every step, the criminals are giving a slip to the police officers, and which is
Right.
very shocking for the elite force of Punjab police, which has, removed militancy from the state, and which is a subject of mockery in front of these criminals.
All right, Priyank, thank you for the moment for joining us with all of those details. We'll keep coming back to you for more on this developing story. Let's now go across to my guest joining us on this debate this evening. We have Jasmine, who is the BJP spokesperson and media in charge, Punjab, joining us. Ashpreet Khadial, Congress spokesperson, live with us this evening. We have Ravinder Singh, Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson, joining us. Shashikant, former DGP Punjab, is live with us. And also SK Sood, former ADG BSF. Appreciate all of you gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening. Mr. Shashikant, I want to begin the discussion with you because here we are specifically talking about the procedure that needs to be followed if any government wants to take a decision to withdraw or curtail security cover given to any particular individual. Can you explain to our viewers what is the procedure to withdraw really the security cover or curtail it? And why is it given in the first place?
Well, I'll start with why it is given. 2-3 reasons. Number one, proximity to certain politicians, belonging that they're sitting high up at the state government, number one. Number two, of course, the orders of the honorable courts. And number three, on the basis of threat perception. And whenever the security is withdrawn or reviewed, the standard procedure is, because I had been heading the security with myself when I was younger, it is that you have to take into account the threat perception. And threat perception is prepared with the help of the police district to which he belongs, that's the district police, plus the intelligence, and in case of more important, more vulnerable persons, even the reports of the intelligence bureau is also taken. As far as Sidhu Moosewala is concerned, yes, he was higher, he had high threat, he had been getting, he was very vulnerable, he had been getting threats, and people had been, it was obvious, it was well known that certain gangsters, that's Lawrence, okay, I'll take his name, his gang had been trying to kill him. So it was obvious. And his security was withdrawn, apparently, without taking into consideration threat perception. But again, I'll come on to it. Security was slightly sort of reduced, yes. But again, Sidhu had also failed to take adequate precautions. When he had gone out, he went out in an ordinary vehicle and he didn't take his gunman. It was his dad who ran behind him and taking his gunman along with him. So certainly it's lapsed. And one more thing I'll say, just before his death, for last few days, it was obvious that certain persons have been trying to recce the area. And one of those persons who had recce'd the area has been caught by Delhi police also, some person by the name of Shahrukh. So it's obvious that he was very, very high, he was very highly vulnerable, and adequate precautions should have been taken at all levels.
adequate precautions should have been taken. That's a very, very important point you have raised, Mr. S.K. Sood. Now, the question is that even if the government, by doing an assessment, felt that it is time to curtail or withdraw security cover of some 424 individuals, why display their names out and open out on social media? Why tell the world that these people do not have enough security, or their security cover has been withdrawn? Is it how this thing is done?
I agree that this should not have been done. Their names should not have been displayed. And in fact, the government, soon after taking over in Punjab, has been withdrawing security. Over 730 persons have been, divested of the security cover that they were entitled to. I was listening to the press conference of the DG. The one reason that he gave is that security cover is always withdrawn immediately before the Gallugara week that is celebrated. Now the point is, ab initio, the security cover provided to Sidhu Moosewala was only 4 gunmen. Even if he was in the X category, he was entitled to about 12 persons. Ab initio, it was only 4, and out of that, also 2 you have withdrawn. So, number one, a proper threat assessment should have been made before withdrawing the security from him. Number 2, as has been said by Mr. Shashikant, the local intelligence failed miserably. If recce was being done, if people were all sort of tracing his movements, why couldn't the intelligence, the state intelligence, and also the central intelligence agencies, which must have been operating in those areas, their sources must have been operating in those areas, why couldn't they collate this information and give it to the police so that a proper rational decision could have been taken whether to withdraw or not to withdraw? You see, I agree to an extent with what the AAP government has said, that there is a certain kind of VIP culture associated with these securities. But then that should not be the only criteria for reviewing the security cover to each people. Proper assessment is required, and intelligence agencies are there to help you out. So I think it was a terrible mistake to have withdrawn. And as has been said, it was also some sort of carelessness on part of Sidhu Moosewala not to have carried his 2 bodyguards with him. I mean, they followed. And I'm also surprised that even these 2 bodyguards did not react. What kind of security would they provide if they are not able to react? So that is another aspect that needs to be looked into while providing security. How are we training these people in providing security? So that adds to the VIP culture. So I agree that names should not have been displayed.
Okay.
I agree that proper security analysis and review should have been done before withdrawing the security. And I also think that the security personnel who were accompanying him in another vehicle should have reacted appropriately to the developing situation. That is what I have to say.
Okay. Okay, those are some pertinent points you have raised. Jasmine, now, questions clearly are being raised whether what the Aam Aadmi Party government in Punjab has done is right or wrong. Eventually, a person has been killed, and the kind of details that have emerged, it suggests, these details are suggesting that, proper planning has gone into this plotting of his murder, the way he was murdered in broad daylight. And this clearly points to some sort of an intelligence failure and the understanding of that from the government side.
True.
Well, you have to understand one thing, that the AAP has won with an overwhelming majority, but they are novices when it comes to administration. They are very new to administration. Kejriwal, with due respect, is the Chief Minister of Delhi, but he has never ruled he is ruling through proxy through Sardar Bhagwant Singh Mann. They have never had police under them. And in the last 75 days that they have been in regime, you can see that there have been 50 murders and brutal daylight robberies. And I want to ask one thing, that why was security curtailed or withdrawn of 424 people without any systematic detailed assessment by the Director General of Police? The DGP should have not put up with the shenanigans of Arvind Kejriwal or of Bhagwant Mann and said firmly that we have just come out of militancy. It is just 30 years since we were in the dark days of militancy in Punjab. We are a border state, for heaven's sake. We have a hostile neighbor. This is Punjab. This is not some other state in India. And anybody who rules here, the DGP, the Chief Secretary, and the Chief Minister have to be on their toes. You cannot wash your hands off. Now you give me a logical answer. And those 424 people, the Akal Takht Jathedars, security has also been pruned. God forbid if something happens tomorrow to the Akal Takht Jathedar. Where is Mr. Kejriwal leading us into? Into anarchy in Punjab? How the DGP, unfortunately, must have been pressurized. You know, there's a word in the English dictionary which says agitprop. And the AAP is a specialist in agitprop. They believe in propaganda. And the propaganda is so constant that they first withdraw, then they publish that list on the Facebook. Isn't that asking people to come and kill those innocent people? Yes, I agree, the VIP culture should be done away. But it has to be a systematic way. You are the Chief Minister of Punjab. You cannot escape this responsibility. And you're a Chief Minister of a border state on top of it, a state which has gone through very dark periods of militancy.
Well, absolutely. It's a border state. One should have been more careful. That's what we are hearing. We've been hearing all through this day as well. But Ashpreet Karyal, he was a Congress leader as well. And, in the past, when Mr. Charanjit Singh Channi was the Chief Minister of Punjab, even he had spoken about and had also curtailed this security cover to end this VVIP culture in the state of Punjab. How rampant is this VVIP culture wherein people are getting security cover, maybe those who do not really need it as well?
See, the problem here is that the Aam Aadmi Party wanted to politicize the issue. It was nothing but a publicity stunt, rather a cheap publicity stunt, which was to garner some votes in Himachal and Gujarat, which costed a life of, a bright young man, costed a mother, her son, a father, his son, and, Punjab, our pride. Second of all, if the security had not been withdrawn by Aam Aadmi Party, Mr. Moosewala would in all likelihood be alive today and would be amongst us. But, Aam Aadmi Party is harping upon two things. One is that he had two security personnel, and despite that, he did not take them along with himself. Now, Mr. Raja Vading, the PPCC president, had a word with the family of Mr. Moosewala, and they told that since there were just two security personnel and they were working around the clock, they requested Mr. Moosewala and said that, sir, if you deem it fit, can we stay back? We are really tired. And because the security was pruned, reduced, it conveys a message to the family that there is no threat to you, because whether to give security or to take away security, you have to do an analysis of threat perception. And if security is being taken away, that's a message to the family that you're safe. And that's why he did not take any security with himself. And second is that, if there were 5 to 10 people with him, they would have been working in alternative shifts. They would have been there with him. And the bulletproof car issue that they've been harping upon, one, Aam Aadmi Party did not provide him with a bulletproof car. Once and for all, I'm clarifying it. He spent his own money, his own resources to buy that car for himself to be safe, because back in the day, there were many major threats coming from his rivals, from gangsters. And, the IB report said that there was a massive threat perception to Sidhu Moosewala, and despite that, his security was withdrawn, is very, very problematic and puts up a very big question mark on Aam Aadmi Party. And second is that, they say that there was an emergent law and order situation that was arising, because of which we had to withdraw his security. If that's true, then why did the Punjab police write to the police of Delhi and said that Kejriwal Saab's security needs to be enhanced? And then the CP of Delhi, the commissioner of police, retorted that you already have sufficient security. There is a Z plus security available to Mr. Kejriwal, does not need any more security. And despite that, a contingent of Punjab police was given to Mr. Kejriwal, which is allegedly of around 90 security personnel of Punjab police, and 45 are with Mr. Chadda allegedly, and with relatives of Aam Aadmi Party leaders. But the people who had a real threat perception have been ignored, sidelined. Now, third is the chronology. That's very disturbing. Mr. Moosewala was criticizing Aam Aadmi Party since their leader was sacked, the health minister, Mr. Vijay Singla, for the last couple of days. Second thing that happens is his security gets withdrawn. Third is that the list gets made public. Now that's blunder, the biggest blunder of all time. It's either negligence, because of which it happened, or it happened out of pure intentions. Either way, it's a blunder, and the responsibility is of AAP, and the blood of Moosewala is on their hands because of this. And fourth, that's like an open invite, to people who posed a threat to these people that, hey, see, the security has been withdrawn, the person is now vulnerable. And mind you, there was a tweet that was done by Aam Aadmi Party leaders and, major leaders, senior leadership, that Mr. Moosewala's security has been withdrawn, Akal Tak Jathedar's security has been withdrawn, and 400 something other people's security has been withdrawn. These two names were specifically mentioned.
424. Now, in fact, we are showing that poster that was put out by the official Twitter handle. We are showing that to our viewers as well. Let's also now get Ravinder Singh, Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson, to respond to the points that have been raised in the debate so far. Mr. Ravinder Singh, the question is, were proper protocols followed in this case or not? Why were details out in the public domain? These are sensitive details. How will you like to address the issues that have been raised so far?
See, Heena, it's a very unfortunate dismissal of my brother Sidhu Moosewala. It's very unfortunate for the state and for the people and the youngsters like me and like Mr. Kadyal. But we have to see that number of VIP and people used to show up their security guards to make an aura for the people of Punjab, to gather some, hype for their personal life. So that was the reason that Aam Aadmi Party government was striking down the security of the persons who just used to flaunt their security personnel in the public so far. And that was the only reason that number of security persons had been withdrawn in the few days back, and this same list has came. And as the DGP of Punjab also narrated in his statement that because some Gallugara week, Gallugara Divas, and the week is about to come, as 6 June is about to come in the state, and that is the only reason it was a temporary withdrawal. Let me clear one thing also. It was a temporary withdrawal.
It might have been a temporary withdrawal from your side, but the question that's being asked right now is that why give out the details in public domain if indeed the security cover, according to you, for these 424 individuals was modified only to end VVIP culture, to send a message. Then what about the threat assessment that needs to be done? Was it done or not? I have a report with me which suggests that even though there was no direct complaint made by Moosewala about fresh threat to him, an intelligence bureau report had mentioned him among top Punjabi artists on the hit list of gangsters. Why was that not taken seriously? How will you respond to the family of Mr. Moosewala today? Because you gave an impression that the threat perception has gone down, and hence it's the right thing to do. This is like, ending VVIP culture. Was there any threat assessment in this case is what I want to know.
That is the only reason 2 security persons have been given to Mr. Sidhu Moosewala, and unfortunately he forget to carry them along with him, or he deliberately denied to carry these security forces along with him. But threat has been done, each and everything has been done by the Punjab government, but because has been deliberate, as it's been narrated by the
Jasmine wants to come in. Jasmine wants to respond to Ravinder Singh. Then Ashpreet.
I would really appreciate if the AAP spokespersons admits that it was total negligence, total propaganda, and total malicious advantage taken by the AAP to publish that list. They had no business to do that, to put on line 424 people's lives. I am saying, I am agreeing that please curtail down the VVIP culture. But for heaven's sake, people who are really, really into that sensitive zone, you can't publish their names. You apply in the RTI and you ask that how many personnel are taking care of that security. You know what they write back? They write, the security cannot be revealed. How the hell was that list published, you tell me? Why did you do that? The High Court should take a suo moto notice against
Ravinder Singh, please respond.
The question is, the unfortunate thing is, a son of the soil had been murdered by some goons of the state, and the opposition.
No, not the goons. You are responsible. No, you should have curtailed those goons,
instead of giving strength to the government and giving strength to the government to act accordingly against the.
Two people away. You've got the man murdered.
There are 56 active gangs in the state, and Akali BJP government along with the government
all the more reason that your Punjab police should be on its toes. All the more reason that the BJP should hold the job.
Student organization of let me complete, ma'am. The student organization of India, which is a student wing of Akali Dal, the Vicky Middu Kheda, who was killed by in the Congress regime, killed by the Vicky Gondal group, and now the Lawrence Bishnoi group is talking about that they have taken their revenge by killing Mr. Sidhu Moosewala.
This is no answer me. Why was that list put up? I am just asking you.
It's not like that. Let me complete my statement, ma'am. You do have your ample time. Clarify all these things in your time. Let me just complete my statement is that Lakha Sidhana was a former gangster who deliberately, who very straightforwardly gave his statement that Mr. Sikandar Singh Maluka, who's a renowned Akali Agu, used him for decades, who used him to capture his booths, who used him for many robberies and capturing booths, and Lakha Sidhana, who just recently fought legislative assembly elections in Punjab, alleged that the Akali Dal was the only party, and along with you guys were also.
Okay, Jasmine wants to respond. Ravinder Singh, I'm just interrupting you there. Jasmine wants to respond as well. Other guests also want to make a point. Jasmine, 1 second. Ashpreet, 1 second. 1 second. Now, 24 hours after the security cover was curtailed of Congress leader Moosewala, he was shot dead. And my guests continue to be with us on Urban Debate this evening. Ashpreet wanted to come in, then Jasmine, and then Mr. Shashikant and Mr. S.K. Sood.
Interrupt anyone? I hope my fellow panelists won't interrupt me. Number one, the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson was referring to the 6th June date, and that's why we had to withdraw security, etc., etc. The problem here is that even if you had to withdraw security, it could have been done to the people who did not have a threat perception in the first place. Mr. Moosewala had a massive threat perception, not a minor one, a major one. And despite that, when you withdraw it, it suggests two things. Either it was negligence or it was done on purpose. Either way, it's your blunder and your responsibility. Second, the chain of events. Why do we say that the law and order situation in Punjab is broken down? It's been in shambles ever since they took over, because in the last couple of days, Patiala clash happened, and 3 Kabaddi players got shot. One was an international player who got shot for 25 times. Then there was IED bomb that was recovered in Punjab. There were an RPG was fired at intelligence headquarters of Punjab police. There's been drugs coming either from the border, ammunition coming, arms coming, and whatnot. And Aam Aadmi Party, hasn't been able to do anything. 40 murders happened in 50 days. People are scared in Punjab to even get out of their houses and to even speak against Aam Aadmi Party. We've also seen their vindictive nature when it came to, targeting Alka Lamba, Kumar Vishwas,
Right.
and Tejinder Bagga. So that's why we question them for withdrawing security of our leaders, and especially Mr. Moosewala. And fourth, simply to earn,
Right.
Minister Singh did not have any answers to this question that why was the list made public. I'll tell you why was it made public, because Aam Aadmi Party wanted to score some brownie points. Image is all that matters to them. Social media is all that matters to them. And advertising is all that matters to them, not the lives of people of Punjab, but the lives of people,
Right.
who are Aam Aadmi Party and
Okay.
their relatives especially. And last
So
thing that I
for
want to
political gains, you are saying this effort was done. Now, I have very little time left on the show. I want to take the closing comments from Mr. Shashikant as well as Mr. S.K. Sood. Mr. Shashikant.
Yeah, it's, like I said, I'll just be very precise. Yes, there was lapse all around. Government should not have curtailed the security setup, the security cover like this, just as per their wish. Number one, they should not have publicized the issue. Number three, adequate precaution, whatever little security Mr. Moosewala had, he should have used that also, taken his two gunmen along with his bulletproof car. That's about I have to say. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Mr. S.K. Sood, do you also believe that maybe for political gains only, as being said by political parties, this message was put out on social media and that turned fatal?
All that I would say is that this list shouldn't have been made public because it then alerted his rivals who wanted him assassinated or who were threatening him to take the action. This list should not have been made public. The other thing that I want to add is that the threat to individuals emanates from two angles. One is as an individual, he is under threat. The other is because he's associated with certain activities that he's under threat. So, for example, the director and producer of Kashmir Files, he as an individual has certain threats, but since he has made Kashmir Files, from a certain category of persons, because they may be aggrieved. So similarly, in case of Mr. Moosewala, because he was a prominent artist and he was also having rivalries as stated by the police. So therefore, any step to withdraw security should have been done after due considerations, not for consumption of public, not as a populist measure for consumption of public. That is all that I would like to say.
Okay. Jasmine, closing comments?
You see, the AAP spokesperson just said that the security of the 424 people was curtailed because of the Kalukara week, which is coming in the first week of June. And I want to ask, where is it pushing Punjab towards? The highest threat to anybody is the Akal Takht Jathedar. And the Kalukara week is coming. And then they put his name. They put his name on the list that security has been withdrawn. I just want to ask the DGP of Punjab and the Chief Minister of Punjab and Arvind Kejriwal that where are you leading Punjab towards? That's all I want to ask.
Okay. Okay, I once again want to go across to Mr. Shashikant as well. You know, considering that it's a border state, shouldn't the government be a little more cautious in terms of following the protocols? Now, you know, giving the Punjab government also a benefit of doubt here, maybe the assessment was that it will be fine if the security cover is curtailed to a certain extent for these individuals. They shouldn't have really put out these details out in public domain, or do you think that, you know, if there is a threat perception, it's not easy to cut down security cover? So that was another mistake.
Of course, it was a mistake. whenever there's a decision is taken about curtailing or enhancing or reducing whatever it is, anybody's security, threat perception is the only thing which has to be taken into account. As per the threat perception, which is taken, like I told you, from the district police, from the intelligence wing of the Punjab government, as also in certain cases by the Intelligence Bureau Government of India. So everything goes as per the threat perception. There are no personal gives and takes, there's no personal obligations, nothing absolutely. It has to be totally objective. The moment that objectivity is lost, this is what happens.
All right. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening. We'll, of course, be tracking this closely ahead as well. Heading into a very, very short break. But